The tech, basically you run from what Lucas has given, and as Star Wars, as the expanded universe has expanded, we've gotten a lot more tech and a lot more documentation, which has made it a lot easier to do.
But if you're a science fiction writer, you cannot help but extrapolate on what is already in place.
Right. You extrapolate, you interpolate, you try to... The trick with any universe like that, being the science fiction writers that we are, is not to put in something that will throw a monkey wrench elsewhere. For example, I had probably a 2-hour discussion once with a couple of the West End Games guys back during the Thrawn trilogy when they were still doing the role-playing game, trying to figure out how hyperdrive worked. And one suggestion was you get yourself into hyperspace and then you have to decelerate out. And the problem with that is if you have to decelerate as opposed to it happening automatically, you have a railgun. You have a mass driver. You don't need a Death Star. You can just send an asteroid into hyperspace, not decelerate it, and have it run into Alderaan at 0.9 C or whatever it comes out at, and you've got your weapon of choice, and it's free. The fact that it never happened in the movies means it can't happen. Therefore, that's not how hyperdrive works. So you have to do all of these, figure out what was seen in the movies, what was not seen in the movies, the books, the TV shows, etc. And that, with the stuff that we've been given from Lucasfilm, we can come up with pretty much most of the tech we need. That's at least how I do it. Do you have a different approach?
Not generally. I mean, the ideas will spark from any new invention that comes along in the expanded universe. And I'm a gamer as well, so just about any idea that floats by in front of me, I try to figure out some new way to exploit it. Catastrophically if possible. Yes. Because if you can exploit it catastrophically, there's a danger to the universe and to the series that you have to somehow put a lid on. But there is a portion of the writer's mind, actually several portions that do different things all the time, even when you sleep. And one of them is figuring out exploits for facts established by other people who should have known better.
Example.
I'm drawing a blank at the moment.
Okay, well, let me just throw an example which I don't think works. I preface this with I've not actually read the book, so I may be talking entirely through my hat. But what I understand is that in one of the recent series, it may have been Legacy of the Force, there is some technique called time walking or something.
Flow walking.
Flow walking.
That is a perfect example.
Now,
yes.
That is where you can send information back in time or something. What exactly is that? If you know specifically.
If anybody have a hammer with which I can hit my head for a while? Flow walking, when it was first presented, looked like a type of time travel in which mental projection could be sent back and forward through time for gleaning of information and communication of information. Later, as the series advanced and progressed, and the possibilities of the use of this were explored, it was constrained more, and it became something that occurred chiefly in the mind and the experience of the Jedi who was performing the flow walking. So it became really impossible to affect things back in time or forward in time. It did become possible to experience them and glean from them, but not to affect them. So that is an example of a technique that might have been intended for one thing and was later reined in to a considerable extent.
But you see the problem with that. If the Emperor can send message back in time, he cannot be defeated by Vader.
Right.
We have the same problem with the time turners of Harry Potter. I winced when I first saw it. No, don't bring in time travel. Please don't bring in time travel. They brought in time travel. Because if something is possible, it will be done.
Do you see the irony of two writers who don't like time travel, who both done Terminator books?
Mine had no time travel.
Neither did mine.
Well, there we go. But time travel by its very nature is almost impossible not to screw up because causality is out the window. But you see the problem with this. Think of something that it's a cool idea, the flow walking. Unfortunately, now we have it retroactively destroys some of the movie stuff, including the climax of the whole 6-movie series. Because if somebody else can do it, Palpatine would have learned how to do it. And so that's the sort of thing you have to watch out. Does your technology now eliminate something? For example, if you had, for example, in the prequel movies, you had some kind of a shield that blocked blaster bolts, then you, of course, the first stormtrooper into Princess Leia's ship ought to have been carrying one of those things. So obviously you don't want to do something like that. Which is a problem with prequels because you have to regress your technology, and it's as your special effects become better and cheaper, it's really hard to resist the temptation not to regress it.